Is it okay that I'm no video?
Hello, good morning. Welcome into another episode of Good Morning NASDAQ. You are live right here on the Clover Trading YouTube channel with me, Dom, your host. Huddie is here as well. No camera this morning. He is traveling. Welcome in, everybody. We have Jeff in the room, BKCJN, Fran, Joseph, Salini. Welcome in. Good morning to this fourth day in June, second trading day of the new month. Hope you all had a great first day of June. We had some interesting developments with the GME, GameStop meme craze with Roaring Kitty, all that good stuff. Didn't appear to actually muster up all that much momentum, but was something for us to talk about yesterday and hopefully something that we continue to talk about going forward. It is 8:50 in the morning. And we are coming at you with a little bit of pre-market prep. If you are new here or this is your first time, welcome in. We are Clover Trading, and what we do here on YouTube every single morning that the market is open at 8:45 a.m., Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, and Wednesdays at 9:15 a.m. So we talk about the gappers, the biggest percent movers on the morning, talk about their fundamentals, their dilution, the catalyst, the daily charts, kind of walk you through exactly the process that we go through when we find stocks for the first time and kind of place them on our priority list in terms of relevance and if it's something we'd actually play or not. And so we welcome you in and hope you're here for a long time. Make sure you hit that thumbs up button as well. We do appreciate your appreciation. The show is free. Subscribing is free. So make sure you hit that little icon as well so you never miss an episode. And you never miss any of our long form content, which we put out every single Monday. So a video should have came out for you yesterday. Make sure to go check it out when you are done here. Huddie, you with me?
Yeah, I'm here. What's going on, everyone?
Talk to him.
What was I going to say? A couple things that you just mentioned. One, yeah, we go over the gappers during Good Morning NASDAQ. That doesn't mean we're necessarily attempting to trade them. We just want to keep a pulse on the market and share our thoughts with you guys, the public, and from there, it's your oyster as well as ours. I forgot my number two, which is fine. So do you want to just get on into it?
And why don't you hit me with your temperature of the market? New month, new week, kind of crazy shenanigans kicking off yesterday. Did have a gap and crapper. You want to just kind of talk from last week into this week, where your head's at with the new month. Did you do anything differently going into the new month to get yourself prepared and ready for it? And what's going on here into the middle of the week?
Yeah, I think the at least as far as the tempo goes, we've been seeing stocks kind of gap up and fade for the past, I don't know, 7 trading days, something like that. So it's been a more friendly environment for short selling ever since FFIE kind of fizzled out. Would be kind of that moment where the market maybe shifted a bit, and where gappers are starting to not hold up and trade billions of shares, and we're kind of losing that immense liquidity. So things are fading more often. I like that. Doesn't mean that everything will fade, right? Eventually, one's going to catch everyone off guard and go. But I think that's the general market environment. As far as June goes, I don't know. For me, it's just going to be business as usual, right? We're 6 months through the year. I feel like at this point, everyone should have. I mean, if you've been trading for a while, I feel like at this point, you should know what you're doing in terms of like how you want to process the rest of the year. What setups do you specifically want to attack? What setups are specifically making you money? What's losing you money, right? And what are you getting rid of, and what are you adding more of? You should have a very nice compiled database of at least 6 months worth of trades, to kind of help guide you for the rest of your 6 months, to tell you really where you should be putting, how much you should be losing, like what is your average loss. Like all that data is really important. And I think right here in the 6 month mark, you can say, hey, am I on schedule? Am I on schedule for what I decided to do January 1st? Am I on target? Am I doing the things that I wanted to do? And if not, I mean, you got 6 months to kind of figure it out, right? So hopefully we're kind of more into not the creation process, but now into the refining process and just sticking to what's been working. And that should lead to a very stress-free and hopefully profitable month.
Yeah, I love the changing of a new month, that clean slate, just the ability to put behind you. Even, we always try to tell people, you have a bad trade in the middle of the month, beginning of the month, put it behind you, continue to push forward, grind on, get back to work, refine, refine, refine. But it just is a lot easier. I feel like when you have a new month and a clean slate, you start back at zero. And even though it doesn't really mean anything, because that could happen in the middle of a week, or in this case, over a weekend, but sometimes that's just enough to get you back on track and to calm your mind back down and get back to the process. I love the changing of a new month in terms of making sure my rules are on tack, making sure I'm being disciplined and patient in my approach for my setups, which I wasn't doing a whole lot of in the last 2 weeks of May. So here in June, definitely my main priority is just really sticking to, getting in where I fit in and trying to make some memories versus trying to get in where others fit in. And so I hope you all sat down and did that as well for the new month. And let us get into it. The biggest gapper of the day is MLGO. I believe it's still the biggest gapper of the day. It is by far. Out of the China. So this was a holo sympathy a couple months ago. 4.58 million float. I couldn't find it, but they had to have done a reverse split in the time that we traded it before. I don't remember it going to 16. I don't remember what the highs were. Wasn't it like 1 to 4? Was it in the cents?
I'll help you. The first time it ran, it went to 15, which is the wick you see before the 16 area, where it went all the way up to 150 and then crashed to 0 in a day. And then this most recent run, it opened up at $1 and spiked to like $1.80, and that was with hollow.
Okay, so back here. Okay, so definitely a reverse split. Let's take a look if there's that. I looked earlier. There wasn't really anything.
Probably 1 to 10 if I had to guess.
I think a little scammy China stock that says they have 111 months of cash left, some SPAC warrants. When you go through the news, there's nothing like groundbreaking. They aren't really keeping you up to date with what's going on. It's kind of a bunch of random PRs. The one 4 hours ago was they announced to jointly establish a micro-consciousness quantum research center with WIMI. So WIMI, the stock, if you remember that one, they're jointly doing something jointly. And they just posted it 4 hours ago and then 4 minutes after that. Same thing. They didn't. Yeah, this is so sketch. Oh, WIMI announced it as well, so they both PR'd about it.
Is WIMI gapping?
Let me see. Very smally, 18%. So MLGO is the one kind of catching it a little bit more. You don't see anything in that filings and the dilution that matter too much. I think the most important thing here is just to note China, X scam, and X sympathy to another Chinese scam back here when it ran from, in post-split 4 to 16. You have a gap and crap, which generally happens a lot following those big moves. Any gaps tend to have some bag holders with them, extra supply. Going back on the daily chart, and that top is around 650. And here we are gapping up over 200% this morning, kind of spiking back right now. Little V pattern, U pattern. What are your thoughts, Mr. Jimbo?
My thoughts, first of all, this is China. And the first thing to understand about China is that they have unlimited money. So if they want to run this thing with a recent reverse split, I think they can. It's not like it's not built the same way as other stocks. Like FFIE was also China, and to some extent that had like an infinitesimal bid. So China is always something to be a little bit kind of cautious over, because it doesn't have to respect patterns, because they have so much money. I think they can break the patterns, which is fine. I'll probably still take, I'm still very short biased on MLGO. I don't think that this is a good situation. I think it's a scam. Does that mean scams can't run? I mean, they absolutely can. If it gets enough volume and if they turn on some kind of algo machine, they can run it. So, but for the most part, yeah, this is a scam in my mind. It's had multiple runs that have failed and gone much lower. So I think at the end of the day, this will fail and go much lower. But it's just, how high do they want to take it beforehand? Stocks generally gapping up 200%. Don't necessarily hold their gains. Of course, there's a chance. But by the end of the day, I do expect this to be kind of a failure representation. I just don't know how high it's going before it fails. Does that make sense?
Makes sense to me, and something I like to look at when trying to identify either gap and crappers or stuff that has the potential to run is obviously previous resistance on the chart, previous behaviors. MLGO had a nice run, but it was jam-packed with momentum from the market heating up in terms of gappers, but also those Chinese plays and the low floats. The most recent gap was a crap and a failure. And you also have some market sentiment from yesterday where BPTH was kind of a similar boat, recent reverse split or a reverse split, gapping up into the 100 to 200% range. A little bit higher price, something we haven't seen recently. We've seen a lot of cheapies gapping, not a lot of $2, $3, $4 stocks gapping. And BPTH really couldn't muster up all that much strength before fading off, and it had similar resistance just behind it as well. So I tend to think MLGO will follow the same fate. Maybe, it can spike more before fading, but to hold a 200% gap is quite difficult. Still 31 minutes to go to the open, so anything could happen. Could be much higher, could be much lower. But when it comes to this one, on the backside of really big pumps and runs, I do expect gaps to get sold into. Alrighty, that is your biggest gapper of the day. Fran asks, what are you watching today? If you want my particular watch list, we post them over at clovertrading.io. Access to that link in the description. Right here in Good Morning NASDAQ, we talk about the gappers and the biggest percent movers of the day. Huddie, which direction would you like to go into? Do you want to talk about the 50% gapper, SOBR? Kind of an interesting daily chart. One that we haven't probably talked about because none of these have been gaps. These have all been runs near the lows, but does kind of fit into that cheap theme that we've seen over the past month, which has been anything basically under 50 cents has the potential to run regardless of news, catalyst, market structure. 23 cents to 70 or 80 cents is the highs. It's kind of come in, bounce back, come in, and now it's bouncing back again. Something here, let me just go real quick through the 17.96 million float. A news an hour ago. They are recovery services converting to sober sure band for advanced remote monitoring, replacing breathalyzers. They've had a lot of news over the past month or so. 0.6 months of cash left. Overall risk is high. Let me see if I see there's some warrants at 62. 62. Yeah, this is one that I think is just kind of going through this trend over and over again. Big spike, pullback, big spike, pullback, big spike. And I would anticipate that each spike gets smaller and smaller as we run into bag holders, as we run into less liquidity. You can see volume has dropped off on each one of the big green days so far. Obviously in pre-market here, a little bit lower than we'll have to see at the open where it is, but a strong morning so far. But this is a stock that has a history of spiking very strong, which is immediately met with strong pullbacks all the way back to where it came from. And until stocks break out of that, like if this were to spike into the 60s or 70s and go sideways up there for a day or two, that would kind of buck the trend in my opinion. But as long as it's in that trend and it's closer to the lows than is the highs, I tend to not be that interested. My thoughts immediately go to, if I'm just trying to find a way to trade this stock, if I had a gun to my head, I'd probably short strength, cover into the backside weakness, or again, wait for some sort of trend shift. But this is already starting to do that straight up move here in pre-market. So my guess would be that in 30 minutes, we probably aren't even this high up and that we've already begun its fade back down, just because that is the way the stock likes to trade. And you're running into a ton of bag holders from previous days where people maybe are not aware of that trend and just kind of get themselves stuck and then are holding into the backside moves and then hoping for moves like this to get out into. Any thoughts, Jimbo?
Yeah, I think sober is a pump and dump, modern age pump and dump. You can see it had its run back in, had a run. I remember trading it. It wasn't great.
Back
Where'd
when?
it go? Sorry. I guess October 2022?
Maybe.
Wow. Time flies.
Looks weird.
I remember this actually being super choppy, and I did not have fun trading this stock. But what it's done since this whole move looks like the company's not doing too well. maybe a last-ditch effort. They're trying to pump the stock up to sell some shares. I kind of heard you say that they don't have cash. I don't really know what their warrant situation is, but overall, chart like this doesn't really interest me left or right. I think it's middle of the range, up from 20, down from 60, whatever it is. It's got a lot more developing to do to really even come onto my radar as something of interest. But yeah, for now, it is a decent sized gapper, 63%. I just don't really see what to do with this chart at the moment. And I just think it's a pump. So like either they run it or they're trying to achieve something else.
Yeah, which is kind of my thoughts exactly. Like in this range, I'm not interested in playing it, but if it were to be one that continually holds up, I do like stocks that are, trading increased volume and just won't seem to go away. You tend to have eventually a play on them, but when we're so far from the highs, I'm really not that long biased when we're 100% away from them. And it has this trend of spiking strong and failing hard. Those are not the ones I really want to be in unless I am part of the initial spike. In that case, I would be adjusting my sell plan accordingly.
They have quite a few warrants at 62 cents.
Mm-hmm. Just kind of the top of the third day here.
Yeah, maybe they sold some into that run already. Like I said, I think the only reason that this stock is spiking is for them to make money. So it makes sense that either they, maybe achieved their goal at 62 cents and sold some warrants and put some, got some money, or they still have to get it back up there. And how they do that, I don't really want to be a part of because I feel like it's fraught with disaster as a long bias trader. Because you could be, there could be, I don't know if there can be an offering overnight, but maybe a repricing or whatever. I mean, these stocks are horrible companies. There's a reason that they're in the 20-cent range. So if I don't have like an immediate edge, I really don't want to stick around to see, the nasty that they might be able to pull.
All right. I'm looking at my scanner to see if BNAI is on there because someone's talking about, there was a PR, but maybe it just popped and then dropped into it. That was one I know Huddie was high on last week.
It was awesome.
Kind of all the gappers. Let's see if you guys have any tickers you want us to talk about. Tom S. Are Roland Wolf and Jack Kellogg part of Clover Trading? They are not. They are friends of the company, friends of us personally, and we love what they do. Jason asked about Sober. If you have any tickers you want us to talk about, ask questions about, get them in there right now on slow mornings like today when we don't have a lot on the gap scan. We lean on you guys in the Clover Trading YouTube community to get us moving. Someone said OBLG just popped up. That's an interesting daily chart. Volume is nothing to write home about.
Dilution is something to write home about.
Write home about it. Talk to me. They signed their letter of intent to merge with Dwellwell Analytics 6 minutes ago. Oh, this looks like confusing dilution.
Looks like a lot.
A lot of it is zero. Just daily chart wise, stock that clearly does not hold its gains. Every time it's broken out of a range, it wicks up and all the way back down into it. You can see that several times. Volume really not that impressive. Even on the day it does 100 mil, 148 mil. That on a 20-cent stock is what, 30 mil volume, dollar volume. So it's not like crazy. Not one that's really hit my radar, but it is kind of in that world similar to whatever one we just talked about. What was it? Sober, where it's just kind of hanging around. It continues to hold up, even if it's not sexy and clean. And yeah, the wicks are to the upside and back down into range, but it continues to set higher lows and hold up higher and higher. This is one where I wouldn't be surprised if I look back in a couple days and see it much higher or having gone on a run. But participating in that run and making money from it is another story. And I really try to prefer to take trades where I have a really good feel for the price action, really good feel for the volume, really feel like there's a lot of people watching it. This is the first time I'm hearing about this one, so I don't know if in this entire stretch if anyone was really watching it.
Let me tell you where my mind goes.
Avoid for me. Tell me.
This is where my mind goes, and it's an assumption I have on most penny stocks because again, like I assume that most of these stocks are horrible. I don't want to be long a lot of these stocks. Sometimes I will because there's compelling evidence to say that it's not doing the naughty at that moment. Eventually it probably will, right? Whatever that naughty means, I just for lack of a better word. But there is evidence right now on OBLG that they are going to do something really bad. This is the first time that we are gapping up and creating liquidity over 27 cents. 27 cents is where they have 117 million warrants priced. So, like, again, maybe it runs, or maybe they're just gapping it up to sell the warrants into anyone who thinks it's going to run, and they sell, and there's a lot of overhead selling pressure. I don't know for sure, but there's evidence that says that there might be selling pressure because there are warrants in the money that are registered and effective, and they can be sold. And at 32 cents, they're up, roughly 25%, 20%. So, again, first time it's gapping up over the level in this like recent, month and a half. I don't know what they're going to do, but again, like if it's there and it's in the filings, it's definitely an avoid for me on the long side, and it's not gapping up enough for me to want to short, but I see a world where it fails horrendously. Unless they decide not to use it and it goes another day, and then I get much more interested in a short, because then I really think that they have a reason to sell when it's really far past their execution price. So it's definitely an avoid for me on a long, just because blatantly there's warrants there, and I pray that it goes as far as possible because I'd love to short it. I'm not going to short a 31-cent stock.
Love to hear it. And Purity asks, how much higher does SISI need to go before you're interested in a short? First thing I would need to do is look at it. Never.
It needs to open up its range. It's not very volatile. Yeah, it's up a lot in like a week and a half, but each candle is really only like 10-15%. So we need more volatility, we need more volume, we need more interest. It's really not a situation that I really want to get involved in, because again, without volume, I think the patterns kind of break. Just like too much volume can break a pattern, too little volume I think can also break a pattern. And also without the volatility, I don't really have proper expectations as to where it can go. So yeah, like Dom said, it's a never for me. As like I won't even watch this chart.
I don't know how this would come across a radar.
I mean, maybe you're scanning for like weekly percent gains or something.
But I mean, 130 breakout to 240, 250 is really not that big of a move, in my opinion, over the course of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days. We really like to trade stocks that are up 100, 200% every day of their run, really overextended, churning a ton of volume, have a lot of interest. And this is something that I really took more into consideration in 2020, 2021, 22, and 23, where when I was an OTC trader, I tend to not care too much about volume and liquidity, and the patterns worked in the OTC market, whether everyone was watching them or no one was watching them. And as I started to trade more listed stocks, I realized sometimes the patterns work when no one's watching, and other times they're complicated headaches that make you really question what you're doing. And so I've really tried to make it an area of emphasis for myself that I want to be buying breakouts and shorting first red days on stocks that have a lot of interest and attention. And that is displayed through volume. That's displayed through how many people are talking about it. The fact that this has been up for 7 to 10 days and this is the first I'm hearing of it, and I'm pretty dialed into what everyone's talking about. There's just not a lot of interest here, and that's reflected in the volume of the stock. And from a technical perspective, we also look at the cleanliness of the run. This run from 130 to 250 is met with a lot of red moves. There's wicks that take up the entire body of the previous day. Do I feel comfortable shorting that, even if it was perfect? If that behavioral trait was so bad that I could find myself losing and having it still work, that's not something I want to be a part of. I really want to be a part of clean moves where I can get paid quickly and then move on, not have to sit through a lot of chop or have to have such wide risk because I don't trust the stock. So for all those reasons, SISI will not be added to my list. But if you say, what would I have to do? It would probably have to like triple from here on 20x the volume and really get on people's radars. Check the scanner, make sure there's nothing there. Also, some news out of Clover Trading. If you guys want access to our upcoming virtual boot camp, you can do so. Link in the description. Same structure as our in-person boot camps like we've done in Boston, New York, and Arizona, where we'll have 2 days of teaching, 2 days of presentations, 2 days of roundtable discussion, Q&As, all that good stuff from the comfort of your own home. And then we will trade live on the Monday on the 24th, June 22nd through the 24th. That is coming up quickly. And we'll have people like Nate Mischaud, Jordan O'Gwyn. J Bones will be presenting as well. So first time speaker there. Really excited to hear him talk about how he likes to scalp on the long side and has done a phenomenal job doing it over his career. So if you want access to that and you don't like the struggles of having to fly out, get a hotel room, all that in-person stuff, this is your chance to see a boot camp from the comfort of your own home. And that is coming up quick. So make sure if you want access, you check out clovertrading.io for more information. Interesting question here from Parker. Says, thoughts on E-Trade and Roaring Kitty shenanigans. Does that affect how you view E-Trade as a customer? I don't think necessarily in that perspective. What affects me as a customer is when I don't have level 2s right out of the gate, or I get the red line of death and I can't cancel orders. There's a lot of other things that bother me a lot more than that.
Wow, the red line of death. I forgot about that.
That was like a big thing in